This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, you can catch Inside the Birds on all podcasting platforms. And on their YouTube channel, just search Inside the Birds. Adam Caplan's here, and Inside the Birds podcast is out. You can check that out, as always, getting you ready for the draft. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is our guest today for Football at 4. On Tuesday's show, we looked at win totals. That was a lot of fun. Got a lot of great reaction and response from people talking about that one. And we're going to look at the NFC today. And Adam Caplan is here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN on this happy hour Friday. Adam, what's going on?
Oh, yeah, Mike, by the way, Moshe and I, we did something that we've not done before in our 7 years of Inside the Birds. We did a mini mock draft during the week. You know, we're 2 weeks away. We're actually under 2 weeks away now from the first night of the draft. And we do why we called it mini, because we didn't do the whole first round. We did picks 1 through 22. So we give folks an idea of who would be available and what positions and so forth. Because the reason why we did is because we keep getting so many questions on this. We're like, let's just address it. And you could, whether you want to watch on YouTube or you want to listen via any pod platform, you'll just see how hard it is, how hard it's going to be for the Eagles if they stay at 22 to potentially get like a really good corner. It's going to be very, very difficult.
Well, that's what a lot of people are hoping for. Corner, it seems. Right guard could be in play, or some sort of versatile offensive lineman. I don't know that you are pigeonholing these guys as a certain position anymore, but that's something. And, of course, we'll zone in on the draft a little bit more throughout these Football at 4s. But the win totals last week, I thought the AFC was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun looking through some of those teams. But now the NFC, and a lot of people looking closely at these numbers and the teams here who are competing for the NFC crown. So let's start in the East. And what are we looking at here? What stands out about the NFC East?
Yeah, so this is very interesting. So, we alluded to this last week when we were just looking at divisional odds, but now we're looking at wins. So the Cowboys and Eagles are both at 10.5. Cowboys are plus 105 on the over. The under is minus 125, which means, because, Mike, we've not had a repeat winner since 2004 when the Eagles were in the midst of winning 4 in a row, 1 through 04. Well, wouldn't you know it, the Eagles are 10.5 now. They're plus 100, minus 120, so they have a little bit stronger odds than the Cowboys do. There's a very slight favor of the Cowboys to win the division. And the other interesting thing is, Mike, both teams are over 10.5 wins last season. And the Cowboys did win the division. So, yeah, the problem that you have is if you're someone who likes to play these what are called futures bets, I recommended last year people get on the lines very early before the hype machine starts. I don't see any hype machine on either team here. We have to get through the draft, obviously, and we'll see if there's anything significant that gets done. But both teams have pretty significant questions right now.
Yeah, I know Dallas hasn't made a move essentially the entire offseason here, and their win total sits at 10.5 plus 105. If you like that, I mean, that's pretty good value. You get more than your money back, and the Eagles are plus 100. If you like what they've done, I don't know, is this an 11 to 12 win team for Philadelphia? We'll see. Both teams were over 10.5 last year. And then at the bottom, Giants and Commanders, both at 6.5. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, a couple of things here. So we should note that with the Cowboys, the only move they made was they signed the younger brother of Michael Kendricks, former Eagles second-round pick. They signed Eric Kendricks, who will be one of the starting linebackers. But you're right, that's it. Now, when we move to the bottom two teams, the Giants and Commanders are at 6.5. The Giants are over 6.5 plus 110. Under is minus 130. Well, they don't have a starting quarterback right now because Daniel Jones has come back from a torn ACL. Now, this is interesting. Boy, the Commanders at over 6.5 or minus 130 plus 110. So clearly, the money. If you think the Commanders are going to be over the 6.5, you're going to have to pay for it. So clearly, that's where the money is right now. People think that Commanders who are going to have Caleb Williams, most likely, they've a new offensive staff. Excuse me, they're not going to be Caleb Williams. Jaden Daniels, excuse me. Jaden Daniels at number 2. That's who I've been mocking at ProFootballNetwork.com since January. So they think that the quarterback will be better. Dan Quinn will do a better job than Ron Rivera as a head coach. And they're going to have a brand-new defense under Dan Quinn. So clearly the money's on the Commanders to be over 6.5.
Yeah, Commanders, I think, a little low there. Giants, we'll see. A lot of stuff still to happen between now and 2 weeks down the road. The North, the Lions were the hype machine last year. They won 12 games. They are over under 10.5. That's an interesting number. But this North is gonna have a big difference. There's a lot of different looks in the North this year. A lot of new quarterbacks.
Yeah, so the Lions, Mike, with 12 wins. Now, their total, as we speak, and it could grow. Now, they've got some significant issues in their secondary. They only have one starting corner right now. And Gardner Johnson now is with the Eagles. But their total is 10.5. The over and the under is -110. So you have to pay whatever side you're under or whatever side you like. My favorite one so far of the teams we've spoken about, the Packers over totals -135, the unders +110. Mike, they're my breakout team in the NFC. Could have one of the best offenses in football. They had a breakout candidate at quarterback in Jordan Love. Defensively, they're changing their scheme completely under Jeff Hafley, the former Boston College head coach. How about him leaving Boston College, where he's the head coach, to take presumably less money with Green Bay? That just doesn't happen. But he clearly didn't want to be their head coach anymore. I like the over there. The Bears, by the way, with Caleb Williams. How about this one? Boy, at 8.5, that's more wins than they had last year, over 8. They're -130 and the under is +110. So clearly the odds makers believe the Bears are going to be an improved team and be over 500.
Interesting, too, because we know Philadelphia plays Green Bay now in the opener. They will be the opponent in Brazil. And I think the Eagles were opened as a slight favorite in that game. Were you surprised?
Well, look, they've had obviously great recent success in terms of making the playoffs and being a bona fide playoff winner. And you know about Jalen Hurts in his breakout season 2 years ago, obviously fell off last season. Here's what the Eagles have more questions than the Packers, but they have the proven quarterback. Now, Love has only done it one season. Yeah, am I surprised? I didn't see. What's the number, by the way?
I think it opened at 3.5. It already got bet down to 1.5.
Oh, wow, boy. And then everyone's on the Packers. Now, it's technically a home game, not that it matters. Although, it'll be interesting to see in Brazil which jerseys people are wearing more of, Eagles or Packers, the fans we're talking about.
Well, I think we know the Eagles travel well, and there's a ton of travel outlets, like Philly Sports Trips who do, there's a lot of those. Does Green Bay have travel places that are going to take a lot of fans there?
Well, they have territorial rights, the Eagles do here, so we'll see if that matters. Then finally, by the way, the Vikings, boy, they really think that Vegas odds makers think they're going to be bad. Their total is 6.5. The over is -140, which means, okay, maybe they'll get 7, and the under is +115. Again, they don't have a starting quarterback right now. It cannot be Sam Darnold. They have no chance if Sam Darnold's got to be the quarterback.
Yeah, Bears will have a new quarterback this year, as you mentioned. Vikings will have a new quarterback this year. The South will have some new quarterbacks because the Vikings quarterback is in the South now. He's in Atlanta. The Bucs will have their quarterback back. The Saints, their situation, and the Panthers, of course, the Bryce Young from last year. So the Saints, Buccaneers, Falcons, Panthers, take a look at the South.
Yeah, so the Falcons only had 7 wins last season and 3 straight 7-9 seasons got Arthur Smith as their head coach fired. You've got Raheem Morris as their head coach. You've got new offensive defensive schemes. They're the division pick by the odds makers and by a ton, by the way. The Falcons' win total is over 9.5, -140. So, Mike, the money is on the Falcons to have 10 or more wins. I don't see that. They're a competitive defense, so they're not very talented on that side of the football. The under's +115. The Buccaneers, last year's division winner, who had 9 wins, their total is 7.5. I like this over, Mike, at -140. You got to pay a little bit, but I like the over. The under's +115. Saints also 7.5. The over's -130. The under's +110. And the Panthers, one of the NFL's worst teams on paper, 4.5. The over's -140. and the unders plus 115. But I really do like the Buccaneers more than 7.5 wins.
Yeah, by the way, Derek Carr is the quarterback in New Orleans with the Saints. So 7.5 is the number for them. Falcons 7 wins last year, Buccaneers 9. This year they have the Falcons at 9.5, the Buccaneers at 7.5. So those two are both pretty interesting to look at. 49ers, they have the high mark of win total in the NFC. And, man, looks like a drop-off in the NFC West after them.
Yeah, the Niners, of course, they're a division winner. They're the dominant team, one of the best in football. They have most, not all of their starters back. They've got a problem at corner, but they got the quarterback back and healthy. The Niners, they're at 11.5 wins. The over's plus 105. Well, okay, so they're hedging. The odds makers are hedging on that. The money is not on the over. The money's on the under at minus 125. Boy, that's interesting, Mike. Now, here's an over that I kind of like. The Rams, who were the big surprise last season, making the playoffs, the over is 8.5, minus 125. Now, I get it. Aaron Donald is retired. The under's plus 105. They'll address their defense. They need help on defense. The Seahawks, they're at 7.5 wins. The over's minus 125. Like the Rams, the under's plus 105. With Geno Smith on the last year of his deal. And the Cardinals, they're not very. They have the NFL's worst roster. Panthers are right there with them. The Cardinals with Jonathan Gannon as the head coach, they're at 6.5. The over is minus 140. The under is plus 115.
Yeah, I know that the Cardinals last year were a team that was kind of a pain in the butt. We'll see if they can improve. Seahawks, kind of Geno Smith again, and the Rams who lost Aaron Donald. But that was a team last year. I think 8.5 for the Rams is kind of interesting, at least. That was a team that surprised a bit. And the 49ers, of course, in the West, 11.5 wins. So in the NFC, last week we had some clear teams in the AFC that we thought were interesting. Is there one in the NFC's number that you say, that's the one that I like the most?
Yeah, the Packers, I'd rank them this. Packers at now I know you got to give up a little juice because, again, the odds makers and the money is on the Packers to go over where they were. I think they were 9-8, and they blew out the Cowboys. Let's not forget they smoked the Cowboys in Dallas in the wild card round. I like that over minus. By the way, that's going to be a hype team. I'm telling you, I called this last year in the spring. The Lions were my breakout team. I said on Sports Grid, get on the Lions right now before the hype machine starts. No team was more hyped than the Lions last season. The Packers are the next team, ironically, in the same NFC North. That's 9.5. And the other one I like is the Buccaneers over 7.5. The money is on the over at minus 140, but, I mean, can they get 8 wins, by the way? Baker Mayfield's back. Mike Evans is back. They have a problem at corner. They have to address it. I'm sure Jason Light, the GM, will address it. And in a minor way, I do like the Rams over 8.5, minus 125.
All right, Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Draft time, by the way. Yesterday, the Eagles signed tight end C.J. Uzomah, and it's a backup tight end. Is he do enough for you, or do they still need to address that spot?
No, they signed him to be the wide tight end. As I noted on Twitter yesterday when they announced it, he's going to be their wide tight end. He'll replace Jack Stoll, same exact role. He is shown to be a capable pass catcher. He's had some injuries in recent years. He's 31. The Jets, talking to them, there are a couple young tight ends that they're looking at. But no, it doesn't stop them from drafting anyone. It certainly would not at all. But right now, he'll be their blocking tight end, their inline tight end. That's what a Y means. A move tight end is the F position in this offense, in the Eagles' offense, and the Y tight end is the Jack Stoll. And by the way, the Eagles made an offer to Jack Stoll. We reported on Inside the Birds, so did the Giants, and he simply decided to go to the Giants. He thought he might have more of a role because Darren Waller should retire, but Waller's kind of shot that down. He hasn't made a decision yet, although most people I've spoken with do expect him to retire, and maybe he would have a bigger role there if that happens.
All right, Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, and, of course, check out Inside the Birds on all podcasting platforms and their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. Adam, take care. Enjoy your weekend, pal.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, Adam Caplan, everybody here. Football at 4 on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN.